you got a bunch of shots right around the rim. You've got 4 or 5 deep shots. Only 2 shots in his sweet spot, which is, to me, 15 to 19 feet. Anywhere in either wing, top of the key. That's where he wants to get. Gives you the shoulder, the lean back. That's his money shot. He's only taken 2 of those in the first half. So he's not getting the shots that he's most comfortable with, which contributes to having a 2 for 13.5.
Yeah, he's number 1 in the NBA in these playoffs in mid-range makes, in mid-range field goal percentage, hasn't gotten those looks. You mentioned it before, Legs, but people talk so much about the Thunder defense. Of course, they were by far and away the best defense in the NBA this season. But it was only a year ago we were talking about Minnesota defensively this time of year, how their defense had carried them to the Western Conference Finals. And we saw that level of defense from them in the first half.
Ton of guys that can do it. I talked about Oklahoma City having more on-ball perimeter defenders that can really pressure up than any other team in the league. Minnesota might be next.
Yeah.
And they've got guys on the bench that come in and do it at a high level with DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I mean, Naz Reid's a very good defender. And then look at their starting lineup with McDaniels and Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. Even Conley's a good defender. Like, there are really no weak spots across their roster. They made OKC work for everything they got in that first half. And now let's see what the response is going to be. How do you free up some of this offense for them?
And Kirk, how about something you're going to be focused in on at the start of the second half?
It's got to be SGA, J-Dub, and Holmgren. These guys have to be better. They've laid an egg in this first half. They're not going to win this game unless at least 1 or 2 of those guys starts getting some points.
Yeah, J-Dub, 2 of 8. Holmgren, 1 of 3. And then we saw SGA with a 2 for 13. We're going to dive back into the arena in Oklahoma City. Get ready for the start of this third quarter. SGA with the lowest field goal percentage in any half of his career with that 2 for 13 first.
Welcome back to the Paycom Center.
And we'll see how he responds, right? Part of the...
Well, it's like the quarter number 3 in the second half. And for those of you, hope you guys enjoy your halftime break.
Continuing to get deeper and deeper into the playoffs. We just saw him emerge from Game 7 victorious and kind of check that one off the box.
Here we go.
Western Conference Finals and a tough
in the second half.
I have a simple rule on that kind of thing. If you tip at a restaurant higher with your meal than you shoot from the floor in a half, you got a problem. Unless you're a really poor tipper, right? Which I don't think Shea is. So listen, he's going to bounce back. I have no doubt he'll be better in this half. The question is, to what extent will he be better?
Hartenstein couldn't tip it in off the delivery from J-Dub. Here's Edwards, pull-up 3. In and out, Gobert gets hooked. Going to stay right here as Rudy Gobert draws the foul. I love the way, guys, throughout these playoffs, Chris Finch has deployed Gobert and Conley. He just seems to have the right... Obviously, they're in their starting lineup for Minnesota, but it just feels like he's played them the right amount of minutes at the right time throughout these playoffs.
No doubt. And Conley, that adjustment came during the regular season. He obviously, at this stage of his career, understands he's not going to be able to play 30 minutes a night. So I agree with you. I think Chris Finch has pushed the right buttons with his rotation, and particularly, some of the older vets.
Foul there is going to go against Edwards.
And another steal by the Thunder. One of the good ways they can get their stars going is to get those points off turnovers that Leg was talking about earlier. If they keep stealing the ball like this, they're going to get some of those transition buckets.
Well, they already have 9 steals. They led the NBA in steals this season at 10 per game. This time it's Minnesota who comes up with a steal. OKC a plus 14 in points off turnovers.
Interesting possession there. I actually thought Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came off going to his left, and he had space to get to that little step back pull-up 18-footer. He didn't even look at it. Instead, he kicked it out to the opposite corner. They ended up turning the ball over.
Here's Shea. Met by Gobert, trying to find an angle, could not. Williams a 3 is good.
And yes, a 3. Yes. We're about 1 point closer to tie the game.
Just like that, it's a 1-point game.
Rudy Gobert was angry with somebody on the screen out there. He was basically saying, push out, close out to the shooter. Like, I got Shea locked up right there. I don't need you down in his lap. He's not going to shoot the ball. Stay home with the shooter. He was communicating to his teammates. If he helps out and forces someone to pick the ball up, they're not going to get a shot off against Rudy Gobert.
Williams jumper way off. We've seen J-Dub has been very aggressive thus far to begin this third quarter. Edwards wheeling behind Gobert. Feeds him on the roll, and oof, that is...
Nobody's going to that dance school.
No,
either.
wow,
Goodness. Look, that's where the Hartenstein floater comes in.
Hey,
Like,
right.
for every big man, that's the shot there that was available to him. It's a little six-footer. Instead of trying to make a play off the dribble with his passing, and Gobert turns the ball over, and OKC takes advantage.
You've got to be smarter against this team. We've said it all night. That is 10 steals now for the Thunder in just over a half of basketball. It's crazy.
And when you consider that 10 steals per game led the NBA, which, the Thunder offered that as well, you realize just how many steals that is. As we see Holmgren get a little more aggressive, he draws the foul here. Taking a moment to get up. So you talked about it, though, Kirk. You needed a little more from J-Dub and from Holmgren on the offensive end, in addition to SGA. And we have seen both of them, J-Dub and Holmgren, that is, be more aggressive offensively to begin the third quarter.
They need it. I mean, their best player is having a nightmare as a shooter tonight. And they're going to need one of these two guys to step it up, Ryan. And maybe it's Holmgren, maybe it's J-Dub. But one of these guys has to start getting it going here in the third.
Like, it's fair to say that's the biggest macro question for the Thunder overarching these playoffs is just the secondary scoring, the secondary stars in support of SGA.
I think so. And I think, look, I think Jalen Williams, in a lot of ways, had a breakthrough this year overall with his consistency in that role. But he's had enough dips in the postseason that the question's still hanging in the air. Is that the consistent, high-level offensive running mate that Shea needs to help attract attention? That question still has to be answered. For now, though, it hasn't mattered because they always hang their hat on their defense.
52-51, good back and forth here to begin the third. Minnesota has led this game by as many as 9. OKC has not led by more than 1 at any point. There's that mid-range, but it's not going to count. They are going to get Shea on a kick out here. Or are they? They're going to get him an and one instead.
That's the shot, right?
Yeah.
This is the one I was saying he turned down earlier in this quarter. You wonder, was he not feeling the rhythm? When he goes left from the top, every now and then he'll be able to take that extra dribble, get it to rim with his left hand, but for the most part, he's hunting that exact shot. He has not had the space in this game to get that off. He recognized the pocket that time. Jaden McDaniels was in full retreat mode. Nobody puts on the brakes on their mid-range jumper the way that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander does to get that separation.
So a three-point play, and this is the largest lead of the night for the Thunder. 54-52, you're watching the Western Conference Finals Insight Cast here on ESPN2. Here's Conley as SGA reached in and knew it. And free throws for Mike Conley.
That looks like ball to me.
But as we talked about earlier, Oklahoma City doesn't have a challenge to use. They used it on an out-of-bounds call where they probably thought there was a proximate foul, which is the reason why a ball had gone out of bounds on Holmgren. But they used it in the first quarter and did not win the challenge, and so have had to go the rest of this game without it. Meanwhile, Minnesota does still have their challenge to deploy.
Listen, I've never coached an NBA game, so I don't want to, be critical of NBA coaches' decision making. But if I were to coach an NBA, I'd be hard pressed to think of any situation in the first half of a game in which I would use a challenge that wasn't directly involved in either picking up a foul on a star player, an important foul, like the third foul on a star on the opposing team, or protecting my star from his third foul. I can't think of any other scenario in which I would even consider using a challenge in the first half of the game. Certainly not a 1917 game on a play like that. And right there, Shea, look, it's only his first foul. He's not in foul trouble, but it did cost him 2 free throws.
Right, and you just want to see if that ends up being a story late in the game, a game that's very close right now. Meanwhile, another floater from Hartenstein as Edwards drills the three. Third three of the night for Anthony Edwards. He's up to 16 points. Julius Randle was the star of that first half for Minnesota. Hit 5 threes, most he's ever had in a half. Shea misses that one. Here comes Edwards. Minnesota, a 1-point lead. Been a great game one. Edwards slides in, kicks out. Conley connects.
Yep.
And a timeout taken by Oklahoma
And
City.
the triple is good. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.